Real estate is like a game of chess. If you make the right moves, you'll end up being the winner. This is episode 7 of Get Smart with Saurabh. My name is Saurabh. Today I have Brian Shew from RDS coming in, so stay tuned. Brian, welcome to the show, and it's a pleasure having you over, and finally we meet over a chess game.
Thank you, Saurabh. It's been a while, and I'm glad we can play chess. It's one of my favorite games. So, we can get started with, maybe white goes first, right? Or actually, we should do it officially. Left or right?
Left.
Left. So left is this one. There you go. So
Okay.
We're going to just switch the boards around. Here you go. So how's it going, Saurabh?
Not too bad, Brian. Not too bad. How you doing?
Great. So, what is like some of the topics that you want me to speak about over your episode? I've been around in this industry for a very long time. I may look young, but I have a lot of experience.
And that's not an understatement. You've been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
You've been around longer than I have. We're almost the same age, if I'm not wrong. But
I'm not sure, but I'm born in '85, and
I'm 84.
Oh, so there you go. So we've been around born just as long, more or less.
But you've been around in real estate for a very long time.
Correct,
So
yeah.
tell me about that. Like, how did it all start? What'd you do?
So, my history, my parents were both realtors, right? They were pretty big realtors in the Chinatown community, right actually over there. You can pretty much see it. Actually, I see my hospital there, right? And I can probably see the roof of my old house.
Interesting.
So we used to live there, and my family background, my father had a real estate brokerage called AA, but then unfortunately that was in 1990, and then he had to shut it down because of the economics back then, right? Like in the 90s, real estate was really bad. The interest rate was like 15, 17%.
Right.
I don't know the real thing, but I was so young, but I was always very noticeable of the market. So we actually had to shut down the brokerage and move to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we moved to Hong Kong, and business failed there too. And then we came back in '95, started the real estate business again, and that's kind of how it all started. And back then, '95, my mother was an agent too, who, is kind of a legend in this industry. A lot of people know her. Her name is Mimi Shew. So.
And she's a legend herself?
Yeah, she's a legend herself, and a lot of people's opinion. Maybe they're just talking to me, but that's what people tell me. And then she started selling pre-construction when nobody else was, because she had a background from Hong Kong.
Right.
In Hong Kong, it was normal to sell pre-construction, but back then in '95, it didn't exist here. Right. So she really started, which is when I started, to sell pre-construction for Concord City Place. So those were the first buildings, and that's where I started, right? So that's really the history of where I started, was really lining up for Concord City Place, because we would have to line up to get units.
Right.
So
the good old days. Yeah.
And this is before one floor. This is we're talking about 4 or 5 years before one floor's lined up, which is, everybody was like, wow.
Yeah.
But we were already doing this in 2000, 2001. And actually, who was lining up with me was your good old friend, Jason Lam. We used to hire him, me and him, we'd hire him to sleep overnight, sitting with in a tent, heaters on the side,
Soup in a thermos.
soup in a thermos, drinking that, and then me and Jason Lam, we would, if I remember correctly, we'd hire 3 people. It'd be me and three of my friends. So we'd have 4 of us, and we would just, what would we do? We would play cards all night for the lineup, right? And it was me, Jason, and a few other people.
Right.
And that's really the start of real estate for me. Interesting. Yeah, and then I started doing leases for her, doing her paperwork, doing administrative work, doing open houses for her. So. Yeah.
So you said 90s. So
Correct.
You've seen multiple market types, basically. Even when you're growing up at home. You kind of feel that tense environment when if the market is the way it is and the business is not busy or it's hard. You directly or indirectly felt that.
Correct. Real estate's a lifestyle, right? So you have to live it.
Exactly.
You have to live it. You have to own up to it. So you can't go home and not think about real estate. Like one of my experiences I had was, you know, you go on the trips with your family, and we went to New York City. It's like, wow, this is New York City, right? Like, oh, let's go to Empire State Building. Let's go to, you know, this, you know, the big park, whatever it's called. Can't remember right now, but Central Park.
Central Park, yeah.
We didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
You know what we did? We saw open houses in New York City.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are we doing? But, you know, I was a kid, but I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And because we travel, like, we kind of drove around a lot too. So what I did like doing, and I always got the front seat because I was actually the map guy. So I don't know if you remember, we used to have these maps, right, with these numbers on it, right? And you had to flip through it, and you had to go to the index and look back. So if you're asking about one of my talents, is like, I can read maps really well.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I can, like, you know, dissect a map or dissect geography really, really well. So
that's very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, same with me. Like if I'm going to a city, I'm going to, you know, like recently I went to Japan in January. So here I am at my buddy's place, and I'm looking at it, and then, you know, it's not very cheap in Tokyo. Tokyo is very expensive.
Very.
And then when you compare it in those kind of cities, and I've been to obviously Hong Kong as well previously, and when I'm looking at those kind of places, I'm thinking, well, we're not that expensive as we think we are, because for what they're getting for the amount they're paying is really small. It's for single family homes, condos, like those places, even in Hong Kong.
Correct.
Like multiple buildings. Obviously, I don't need to tell you, you know much better than me, but it is ridiculous the amount of the space you get for what you pay.
Hong Kong is probably like 10 times the price of we are in today's market. So there's a long way to go. Now they are on an island, and I'm talking about Hong Kong Island is 10 times.
Right.
When you go to the outskirts, it's a little bit less.
Yeah.
But the difference in Hong Kong Island and the outskirts is still like 5 times. So that's where the problem is in Toronto. And that's where you may see a big boom in downtown Toronto, is because the outskirts and downtown, as you know, is probably only like a 20% difference, which doesn't make sense in a major city. Like if you talk about like even New York City,
right.
Fifth Avenue versus First Avenue. The pricing is night and day, right? But Toronto doesn't have that. You know, you go to Vaughan, it's like what, 1,200 a foot these days?
Yeah.
And then what is downtown?
Downtown is 18. Easy.
18?
And someplace like 2,400.
But that's only 20%.
Yeah.
That's not like double or triple
Yeah.
of New York. Like forget about Hong Kong. New York is double.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's part of the market, and that's where we may see a boom. I don't know if you will, but you know, that's a speculation, of course, right?
And then obviously, you know, scarcity of land is another thing. I mean, there's so many the housing crunches there. The supply is not there clearly, and I love boasting about this, if you will. Many years back, like we used to have people say, "Oh, you know, condos that are empty, nobody's living there." I don't see those people talk anymore. Like, you know, they just kind of disappeared.
Well, the Toronto investment market is so broad, right? Because what happens is like, you know, if you actually go to other major cities, when people buy real estate for investment, they leave it empty.
Exactly. Yeah.
They literally leave it empty because people think it's because they're so rich or whatever, but it's actually, in my opinion, is because it's not worth it to rent it. You know, you buy a place in Shanghai that's double the price of here, but you may only get, let's say for a 1 bedroom, you get $1,000 in rent. But now your place is $1 million for a 1 bedroom.
Right.
Why would you rent it out for $1,000?
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't make
Fair
sense.
enough.
Just leave it empty.
Yeah.
Because buying something that's brand new, living in brand new is worth way more. That word brand new, never lived in, is worth way more than your $1,000 a month. It's not worth the risk. But in downtown Toronto or anywhere in Toronto, your rents are so high.
Yeah.
Right? So like, why wouldn't you rent it out?
And that's the thing. I mean, with the current market, supply and demand, the way it's going on, it doesn't make sense not to rent it out.
Well, here's a stat, right? Like, so in Toronto right now, we're building about 30, 40,000 residents. No, I think it's like, 30, 40,000 residents a year. But really, we need 60 to 70.
Yeah.
So every single year, we're short 20,000 residents. Or new places, and that's why the rents are going up, and that's why prices are going up, because the fundamental of real estate is all supply and demand.
Right.
But demand is keeps growing because we're not building enough.
And that's the kind of talks that we need to have with clients or people who are on the fence of like, should we go ahead and buy, should we invest, or is the market going to come crashing down, or what's going to happen? So
that's your side. My side is I need to talk to the city to allow us to build more. So like we need to work together because you need to get them to buy, and I need to get them to allow us to build.
Definitely.
So it's actually like a teamwork among everybody.
Oh, of course. So let me ask you this. So how would you go on suggest somebody who's looking into pre-con, or making an investment in real estate? What should be their mindset?
Well, their mindset, number one, I've always been taught like real estate's a long-term investment.
Definitely.
Right. So whenever you buy, don't look to flip. Mm-hmm. I think buying to assign is a dangerous game.
And we've seen that most recently.
Correct, most recently. And the best thing about buying real estate is you should be buying real estate looking for a long-term investment. And what happens is that the basic fundamental rules of never losing money in real estate is two things, okay? Mm-hmm. Number one,
pay attention.
Never, ever buy above your means, mm-hmm. and never sell for less.
Definitely.
You're guaranteed to make money.
And hold it as much as you can.
Yes, like holding your assets is the best thing you could do because wealth is built on assets. Yeah. Wealth is not built on money anymore. Mm-hmm. Actually, there's a lot of economists out there, they say, as long as you're collecting good debt, it's great. So just keep collecting good debt. Mm-hmm. Like all of us, probably you and me both, we probably owe millions of dollars, or maybe not millions, but maybe $1 million or $2 million to the banks. But those are all good debts because they're assets.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about building wealth. Wealth is assets. And assets real estate is one asset. Owning a business is another asset. Investment, as in mutual funds or whatever, that's another asset. So you just got to grow your assets.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever that is. But real estate is the safest. Why? Sure. Because you get to leverage. Canada is the only place you get to leverage 80-20. Mm-hmm. More or less. I mean, there's other countries that can do it, but those countries don't allow immigrants to come in. So it's a very different market.
Very nice. How has the new construction changed over the years, from the 90s to the 2000s, now in 2020s? How has that changed? Because I still remember one of my first projects was in downtown, but then the lineups, I remember lining up for, Limelight at Mississauga, one of my very first one. Overnight, thermos, soups and thermos, overnight.
And that was for Daniels. That was
Daniels.
That's a great building. At night, you still see it lit up. It has that limelight in the
Green
top.
Lantern.
Yes. It's actually an amazing building. I have friends that live there. So, the real estate market and the pre-construction has really changed, really due to knowledge, mm-hmm. right? So back then, there was no such thing as platinum agents. Right. There was, but it was a very small group.
Very small group, yeah.
And you're talking about like 20 people. Mm-hmm. Because, nobody understood what real pre-construction is. Nobody understood the paperwork.
It's a very niche market.
Very niche, right?
Very niche, yes.
And then as the industry grew, and there wasn't many developers. You're talking about very few developers at the same time.
Not the way it is right now. It's
correct.
For sure.
Now the business has grown to the point where there's there's probably 100 developers out there.
Easily, yeah.
Right, and back then there was only 20 agents, and now there's probably 500 agents that are working actively on pre-construction mm-hmm. only. Mm-hmm. Right, or mostly pre-construction. So the industry has grown because the numbers have grown. Back then, when I started, it was only 8,000 units a year we were selling. And now we're selling 30,000 units a year before the pandemic, right? So now the pandemic has happened and, it dropped down. Last year we did about 15,000, most of it was Q1. This year, we're only in Q2 right now, so the report hasn't come out, but we've only sold around 2,500 so far. So it has been slowed down, but you can expect the market to pick back up whenever the market can dictate, whenever people are back to buying, right? And that's all supply and demand, and that's all to do with interest and the history of the market is it's always going to bounce back. And one one good example I have is
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, one good example I have is probably '08.
Easy. Yeah.
Right, '08. It was the winter. There was a huge dip, and that was a financial crisis. Right after financial crisis, in the wintertime, I was working at 500 Chessboard.
Okay.
We were selling at $400 a foot.
Wow. Yeah.
And it wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
It was so dead. I was working 3 days a week there with my ex-boss, Hunter Melbourne. And it was so bad that I actually went to deliver flowers, right? Because, I got to survive.
Yeah, of course.
I got to survive. So I was delivering flowers, and, as the building occupied, I stopped delivering flowers and I started to do leases. So in that building alone, I did like 85 leases. So how you survive is you lease out your properties, right? You go through the tough times, right? But eventually it's going to go back up.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. And then don't live beyond your means. So, if you have to sell, I had tough times. I sold my mutual funds.
Yeah.
Just to survive.
You have to do what you have to do.
You have to do what you have to do, right? And you can, that's just like the state of mind of how you can be, and that's how you can grow, and you can grow your assets that way, right? So just, make sure you never buy beyond your means and live through the tough times.
And have the capacity to hold your purchase just so you can ride out the storm, basically.
Correct.
Because nobody knows, nobody has a crystal ball, obviously. And then, when the market's down, it's kind of like today's scenario, best time to buy. Builders are giving absolutely fantastic incentives to buy for the purchasers. Now's a very good time, but nobody knows what the market's going to be 5 years, 6 years down the road.
Correct.
So if you're thinking, let's say, a 1-bedroom right now, but you're going to lose your sleep over it. And that's what I tell my clients. If you're thinking you're going to lose your sleep over it, call me 3 o'clock in the morning. Saurabh, did I make the right decision? You probably didn't. Just buy a studio instead.
Correct. Live within your means.
Exactly. Don't lose your sleep over it. Just relax and enjoy the ride.
Correct.
Right? So what? You're going to make a couple of bucks less, but at least you're going to be very comfortable. You're not going to be,
Well, also when you're buying pre-construction, you should be looking, everybody's thinking what is it compared to today?
Yeah.
But really, you're not buying an asset for today.
Exactly.
So why are you thinking about what is worth today versus everything else? What, if I was to buy real estate, which I do, I look at it what is it gonna be in 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it's built, right? What is that piece of asset that you bought gonna look like in 6 years when it's built?
Right.
And what is the market in that neighborhood gonna be in 6 years? Right. And if you see a huge potential growth, and you're this is a stable market, this is the only building in that neighborhood, you're pretty much guaranteed that, number one, forget about making money. Yeah. Because in a hot market, everybody makes money. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You can buy anything in real estate and you're gonna make money in a hot market. Right. But it's about buying where I can rent out and be comfortable. So one perfect example, actually right behind me, you can see it right there. That's one of my signature sites. Okay. So that one there is Theory Condos. Right. So I sold that one in 2017. Okay. July 18, 2017. Okay. Right. We sold it for $1,000 a foot or whatever. Right. Which sounds high. Sounds high. $1,000 a foot at 2017. But guess what? I rented that baby out when it was occupied for a 1+10, $3,000. It was going for it was $650 a foot on the rental market. Now it's at $7 or $8 a foot in the rental market. It's crazy. A 1+10 is $3,500. A 2-bedroom is $4,500. A 3 is over 5. And we were talking about small economical units that we're selling, so same size. But if you look at that black building, there's nothing around it. And it's actually right across from U of T. So you have all the students that are coming in, right, that are renting there, and you're the only one. You can see it. You can't see anything around it. Right? That's the only building that's surrounding it. And those are the type of investments that you should buy. Exactly. And you're funny you mentioned $400 per square feet, because I see Ice Towers literally right behind you. That was one of the first sites I started selling. Correct. When I started. So you were selling on the outside. I was actually on the inside of that building. Yeah. I was in Mark's office. We were having some drinks, waiting for paperwork. Because back then we were doing paper signing. Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, and we were there till 1 or 2 a.m. I had to leave early because I had a date, but like I was there with you, with your parents, you know?
So that was what, $500 per square feet at
Correct.
that time?
And that time, that was expensive.
And that was very expensive.
That was expensive.
And market wasn't on the higher, like it was not on a higher side. So people were like, you know, well, $500, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? And now, you know,
Now look at it.
20 what, something odd years later, it's look at that building, look at the 10 York across the street, look at other towers across from the Maple Leaf, well, Scotia Plaza, if you will now, and everybody's made 65 Brenda. Everyone's made money in those.
Correct. I mean, if we're speaking about that neighborhood, like one building that really kickstarts the real estate market again, there was another dip, and the other dip was 2012, I believe.
2012, yes.
Yeah, it was 2012. The market was like pretty bad. Right, and the pre-construction market wasn't moving at all.
Yeah.
And then back then, Mancase, you know, one of the great developers of Toronto, launched a building called Harbor Plaza.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Jason Lamb, my big good buddy, one of my best friends, was working there, and they really kickstarted the market again, right? Because it just had all the tools and assets and everything for a great future building. Because if you look at it now, inside, it may not be, you know, good for everybody, but it has a supermarket, it has a Winners, direct access.
All the amenities you could ever dream of.
Everything you can dream of is kind of there.
Yeah.
Right? You have the waterfront, and like these are assets that you can only buy once.
Exactly. And that's the thing. When you look into a project you want to invest in, you want to make sure what kind of amenities are involved. In theory condos, like you said, like the location is key. It's there's still nothing around it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of plan you want to speak to your realtor about, or talk to the developer. You guys are very open and welcoming, and yeah, come on in.
Listen, everybody can find me. It's pretty easy, you know. My number is right on Google, right? So like it's pretty easy to find me these days.
So yeah, those are the kind of investments you want to make. What's the future growth? And I keep telling my clients, two kinds of investments. You can either have something like downtown, where you have everything built for you, all the infrastructure is there, or invest in the future where, you know, things are up and coming. Like down the road, like 12 years, 13 years down the road, nobody gave 2 cents about Mississauga.
Master plan communities like Mississauga or downtown Markham, like it. People didn't believe in it, but if you look at it now, you know, like it's grown so much that people are living there. There's actually a real community, right? Because you know, to be honest, like you guys are here to sell units,
of course.
But my job is actually to build communities.
That's right.
So it's a completely different job. So when we look at a building, like, okay, how is this community gonna fit within the community that already exists?
Right.
So we have to look at a bigger scale and a bigger, like, where's the parks, where's this, what are we building? You know, even the Section 37, which is the art thing, is what art are we gonna put up?
Right.
It has to match the neighborhood and the building. Right, so those are the things that we look at on the developer side. So it's interesting because the city is always trying to, you know, help us to build more. As you can see, there's more and more stories coming up, right? Things are getting taller and taller. Right, so that really helps. But what we need more is to go even taller and even higher, because we need more residents. Right, there's not enough residents.
Yes, clearly. And then if we don't solve that problem, prices will always
go up.
Going up.
The only way to solve this supply and demand issue is to build more supply.
Right. Now, do you find that part, I don't know if you want to get into this, but
no problem.
Do you want to, do you find that part of approvals, and do you find that hard to get, get the all clear to go ahead and?
Well, the problem is, the city works on a method of they're here to satisfy everybody, right? They need to make sure everybody's happy. So, somebody may come here and complain about, it's too tall, or for a good example, a lot of people come in, they say, well, it's too tall.
Yeah.
And then we're building a building that's let's say, this big, like 10,000 square feet, let's say. But let's say we go, instead of 30 stories, we go 35, but we'll make it 9,000 square feet.
Right.
But then somebody's like, oh, but that's intruding my my backyard, the not the view, but like the shadow. The shadow is intruding my backyard.
Yeah.
But actually in a skinnier building, it intrudes less.
Yeah.
But all they care about is how tall it is.
Yeah.
But they're not looking deep down inside. Like, you know what? If it's taller but skinnier, you actually block less of it. And even if you show them the studies that we've done on the city side, they don't want to believe it. Yeah. They just, don't want change, right? But the city has to grow. Yeah. And if the city doesn't grow, none of us grow.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then we're back at square one. We don't have places to
live. Why is the rent so high?
Exactly.
So it's all about getting more supply to keep the prices down.
Right.
Right. So that's what we need.
Of course.
As a city.
And a city like Toronto, and it's just with the amount of people coming in, with the people coming in from other cities, because we have most of the jobs. Like we need, and this is I think it's a very, very, obviously it's a very serious situation now, especially being like a supply crunch being there. So I think we should have a more clear, faster, smoother way of approvals, just so we can start, because I know like developers are ready to build and they have the land, they have the zoning. It's just it's a tedious task to go back and forth.
Well, and it's also the construction costs, right?
Oh, for sure.
Construction costs is rising because the labor, material, everything, the cost is going up.
Yep.
Right. So here's one of my theories, and maybe some people may not like what I say, but which is normal, which is fine. But I truly believe there's no such thing as material costs, right? Because how are they building in Africa for like $50 a square foot, and we need about 300, right? I don't believe in material costs. I believe in shipping and labor costs, because there's no way that a piece of wood is the same price here as it is in Africa. If we're talking about material, actual material, I think material is free, more or less. If you want a piece of granite, there's tons of mountains. Go there, chop it up yourself. There's a piece of granite, right? Or if you need wood, you don't need to even go that far. Drive north like 1 hour. Go to somebody's cottage, chop off their tree, see if they give a crop, probably not, right? But it's all based on shipping and labor,
right?
But that's the economy of Toronto, right? Like people need to make money to survive. Like nowadays, like when we started in real estate, lunch was $5.
Oh yeah, now it's nothing less than.
Now it's $20. It's like 3 times.
A good lunch, yes.
Yeah. No, but back then, okay, maybe a good lunch back then was 10, but now it's 20. So everything is doubled.
Everything is expensive. Yeah.
And so has labor.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So labor has doubled. Everything.
Cost of living in general, gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even real estate has doubled. So real estate hasn't really. If people think real estate, it's doubled, it's so expensive now, but your grocery has doubled too. So buying real estate at the end of the day is keeping up with inflation in a sense as well, right? Because if you buy GICs, you're actually a negative, because GICs back then, this past 15, 20 years, right now it's 4.5%, right? But back then was only 1 or 2%, right? So, but real estate was growing at a rate so high that it was exceeding inflation only because of leverage.
That's right.
If it wasn't for leverage, it's actually just going with inflation.
Yeah. And then when you look at other asset classes, like obviously GICs and stuff, you can't beat real estate. It's just there to grow. It's like nothing performs even close to real estate in the long term.
In the booming market.
In the booming market.
Yeah. Now, if you go to and it comes back down to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So let's say, I hate to knock it down, but let's say you bought in Detroit.
Right.
Right? Why don't real estate in Detroit succeed? Or why is it not a great investment in most people's eyes? It's because the population is decreasing.
That's right.
So there's less demand, right? So obviously that's somewhere where you don't want to buy. So in Toronto, I don't know of any pockets where the population is decreasing.
It's only going.
It's only going up.
When we came to this country, obviously, look at the East End. It's growing. There's massive development coming there. Nobody, and I hate to say this, when I was in high school, nobody gave 2 cents about the East Side.
Correct.
But everything was West. Hamilton, Mississauga was very heavily being invested in. Oakville, look at Oakville. If you go to Dundas and Trafalgar, the amount of construction there is absolutely phenomenal.
We have more cranes than anywhere else in North America. We're the fastest growing fastest growing city in North America.
Right.
We're actually the leading edge.
Actually,
and everything.
If we have enough time, I'd love to count the number of cranes that we see behind you. But, we'll probably get a shot of that. But yeah, you're right. We do have the most amount of cranes in the world.
The last report I saw, we had 215 cranes.
Wow, yeah.
Something like that, So that's a lot. That's a big number.
That's a huge number, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And New York probably only has like 80, 90, right? We're talking about like a world-class city. And now we're a world-class city.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, back then when we started, Toronto wasn't much.
Not so much. But then a lot of these towers did not exist back then. Like, I see many towers that I didn't even notice.
Back then, you could see the water. It was clear.
Easy, yeah.
Now it's like, now you can see through the water, right? Through the buildings,
move
right?
A little bit more.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
And there's pockets where you can't even see the water anymore, right? But back then, it was clear.
Yeah.
Like, if you just look at the Toronto skyline, from the waterfront looking this way, actually, like, back then was like, it was a few buildings. And now it's just, and it's only going to grow from there. It's only going to be more. But the best thing about Toronto real estate is based on people, but people come here to work.
Yes.
Right? Toronto is a working city. So people need to live here and work here. Right? And that's why the economy is growing, because don't look at how many condominiums are going up. That's one very small factor.
Right.
Look at how much commercial is being built.
That's right.
There's a new CIBC building. There's another few approvals. There's a new Ernst & Young building.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of commercial that's being built in downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
So, and every office tower, let's say an office tower supplies 20,000 people, 20,000 jobs. Well, 20,000 jobs, and let's say each building is 1,000 units, which is not, or 500 units.
Right.
You're talking about 20 condos you can build around one office tower.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the economics, right? So it's all about how many jobs are coming here, which there's a lot.
For sure. There's no shortage of jobs, shortage of houses. Like multinationals,
Correct.
MNCs, all the MNCs are here. We got more coming. And eventually, people from suburbs do end up coming here. Mississauga, Caledon, Oakville, like they do take the trains, transit to come into the city. But, and sure, a lot of people are working mobile these days, but I personally don't think that's going to last too long. There will be, and I think a lot of these companies have started asking or telling their employees to come back 2 to 3 days a week.
Well, mobile living is, like office living is, here's one theory, right? Like you said, it's probably going to come back. Right now it's back to like part-time, right? So, if somebody is like, I'm in IT, I don't need to go to the office. I can do everything by Zoom, right? But to be honest, if I'm hiring you at Canadian prices,
right?
Why don't I hire somebody from like a second world city?
Sure.
Right? Let's say hire somebody from Asia, anywhere in Asia, for a fraction of the price. Because they can do everything by Zoom anyways.
That's true.
Right? So like at the end of the day,
the whole concept is the same. Like,
you gotta go to the office, right? Because if you don't go to the office and if you're not there, then how can they justify paying you that price?
That's very true. That's a very good point you made. I didn't even think about that, but companies can save a lot of money doing that.
Correct. Like some people are like, even banks, like, and we're talking about even locally, as in Canada. You don't have to go all the way to like Asia, but if you think about it, if you work at the bank, you're a teller at the bank, and in Toronto, let's say a teller makes 20, 25 an hour, right? In Nova Scotia, you're probably making 15 at best, right? But and in a manager level, Toronto, you're making probably 80, 90,000 any manager position, right? Or somewhere around there. And in Nova Scotia, it's probably like 50,000. So, and then during pandemic, people were moving to Nova Scotia because real estate was cheaper.
Yeah.
And then what happened is like, their bosses in the bank is like, well, you got to come back. And they're like, no, I don't want to come back. I want to do this all remotely and I can still do my job.
Right.
But the truth is, they need them to come back or else they should be paying them 50,000 because of where they're living. So because you live in Toronto, because you work in Toronto, you deserve to get paid more. Just like New York City, the income level there is even higher because the cost of living there is higher. So what happens is in New York City, they get paid even more than we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So going back to the investor's mindset, what advice would you give to the buyers right now? Like, what should you look into when you're looking into making a purchase?
Well, when you're buying real estate, right? Again, live within your means.
For sure.
Right? And never sell for less. Right? So those are the fundamentals of buying real estate as an investment, right?
Yeah.
And really look at what it's going to be.
Future.
Correct. Because you're buying a future asset.
Right.
Right? Technically speaking, you're buying a piece of paper that promises you a real estate.
Right.
You're not buying real estate.
Yeah.
You're buying a promise of real estate.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it again, what it's going to be in the future, right? And if you like what it's going to be, then that's what you should buy.
Right. For sure. And I think like look into the neighborhood, don't look into what's there now, like you mentioned, look into what's coming up. We've seen multiple examples of those. Liberty Village, Parkland Lakeshore, Mississauga, downtown. There was no downtown Mississauga when I was growing up. Nobody knew where downtown Mississauga was, nobody even knew we had a downtown. It was a new term that's come up, and that's being.
I thought downtown was Main Street.
Well, downtown apparently now is Square One.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Nobody knew we even had a downtown, or do we? You know what I mean? And so look at the future growth. Look at what's out there.
Or look at commercial. There's like 6 office towers being built there.
That's right.
That's where you should buy.
Yeah.
Right? Or like look around transit, look around GO train stations, right? Subway stations, because those are future proof.
Sure.
Right? Because people need to travel. There's less and less cars. There's more and more bike lanes. That's a totally other topic.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure your place is future proof.
Yeah.
And of course, work with the biggest developers, work with the best developers, and really.
If it's too good to be true, it is. And that's one thing I always stress to my clients about. If it's too good to be true, it probably is, because you want to work with the best of the best, people who have big money, great reputation, and who will deliver irrespective of whatever the market changes are.
Yeah, like the developers I work with, right? They're actually, money aside, money is one thing. They're here to make money, but they're actually more here to build real estate as a legacy.
Legacy, yes.
More than they are to make money.
That's right.
Right, because they already have money, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
They already have money. They don't need to build real estate. Right?
They want to make that,
Yeah, they want to build it because it's a legacy to them. Like, it's a legacy to me when I sell it.
Of course.
Like, it's probably a legacy to you too. Like, when I look at Theory Condos, I look at it, I'm like, whoa, I sold that.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's other buildings out there that I have, right? When I look at it.
That's right.
And you have that too.
Of course.
And you become proud of the building, right? The community that you're building, right? So like that's what I would do, is work with big developers, or not big, but like good people.
Good people.
Yeah.
Reputation goes a long way.
Correct.
And I remember early 2000s, Parkland Lakeshore was so hard to sell. And 2012 was one of those markets where nothing was moving. Almost nothing was moving at all. And it's people who invested in a down market, they're reaping the rewards now. Like, it's double, triple to a certain extent, their investments.
Listen, like right now we're in a slower market, right? And then there's a hot market and a slow market. But at the end of the day, it's a market. So there's a market. So you can take advantage of a slow market right now because you have time. You can look around, you can shop around on what you like.
Right.
So right now, if you have the means for it, it's actually a decent time to buy. It's actually a great time to buy. Because you have time to buy what you want. In a hot market, you're buying whatever you can.
Yeah, because you're following the crowd. Because
correct. You can't even buy what you want.
You can't, because you have 30 minutes. You have 2 units for you. 30
you got 2 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. like tell me right now. Oh, I got your voicemail. Sorry, the unit's gone.
Yeah. So it's like that's the good thing about buying real estate today, is you got time to look and you can actually enjoy the process.
Yep.
Right, and take your time. So. And it's never, ever a bad time to buy real estate.
Never. And I've always said this to some of my guys as well. Listen, if you can survive on $1,000 a month, you can survive on $800 a month as well. So if you really want to get into the real estate game, make that investment. Make sure you have that generational wealth, as this, like, you know, two words are flying around quite a lot these days. You got to make some sacrifices. Like, it's not for everybody to invest. It's not for everybody to be able to afford till you do something about it. It has its awards, like, it has its rewards.
But it has its challenges.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I remember back then, I sold a real estate property to one of my friends, right? And back then the studio was $160,000.
Wow, okay.
Right? So, but you know, each payment was actually $8,000, and back then $8,000 was every 4 months.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Wow.
So that's $2,000. Like, they had to save $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And luckily, my friend was living at home, but you know, she only made $2,500.
Right.
So for the whole year, she was living off of $500 a month.
Wow.
But then that studio at 165 became $220,000
There you go.
at the end of the closing. So she made like 50, 60,000, whatever, after cost and everything, right? Because for the first year, she was grinding it out and living off of $500 a month.
I mean, see, if she,
and now
it's doable.
Now she owns 3 condos.
Yeah,
right. Because she lived. I mean, and then she sold it, and then she bought 2 more, and it grows.
And all you got to do is live below your means. It's not hard spending money. Go ask my wife.
It's very easy.
Yeah, but it's very easy. But then, you know, and those are just little bells and whistles. But having an asset like this
is forever.
And then it keeps on growing.
And it keeps on growing, and it's to some people, it's their family, you know, estate, it's their family wealth. Yeah. To some people, it's their retirement fund.
Like, realistically, who knew a market like downtown Toronto, like a specific example, we would grow from, at your time, you said you were selling it for 400. When I started, ICE was about 500-ish, ballpark.
Oh, no, when I started with City Place, it was actually like 275.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was 275 a foot.
There you go.
But there was no market too. It was like 275. It was hard to sell.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's not like it was 275 and easy.
Yeah.
Right.
And now look at it. Now it's like places we're touching $3,000 per square feet as well.
Correct. It's just like this place that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Camros. This is beautiful.
Special shout out for Camros.
Special shout out. Thank you, Camros.
So there you go. So, you know, it's just some people will say it's absolutely bonkers, but this is what it is.
This place is going to be worth 5.
Oh, for sure.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
It's things like places like these don't come around for like too often, and then, you know, it's just location is key.
Correct.
And it's just, I mean, look at this. You have people coming in. Look at the view. I'm like,
and they need to buy.
Oh, for sure.
And if they don't buy, they rent. You know, some people are like, oh, interest rate is so high. I can rent for the same price of buying just on the interest. So like, let's say your interest on buying $1 million property is like, let's say $3,000 a month. Oh no, $4,000. It's probably like $6,000 a month,
right,
on interest, or 5 or something like that, whatever it is, right? And they're like, oh, I can rent whatever I want, right? Kind of. But what happens is, as the market grows, your rent goes up. So when you buy, you're actually protecting your rent as well, in another sense, right? Because people are like, why don't I just rent?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you can, but you're not protecting your rent.
That's right.
Every year your rent goes up.
Yep.
But if you buy real estate, you're actually locking your cost.
Yep. And you're not putting that money in garbage, never do we see it again.
Because when you sell 25 years later,
you're getting that,
your mortgage paid off.
Exactly.
And then now that's your retirement fund.
Since both of us have been in real estate for a long time, what's the craziest story you have for me in your many years of experience?
So one of the most memorable experience I had, right, and this has nothing to do with like growth or anything like that, and it's just us being people and you know, like doing resale or doing like selling real estate. So I was showing my friend a property. I was doing resale back then. We went into this house, right? Okay. So we go into this house, and you know, we're walking around, we see these trophies, right? So we look at the trophies, and there's a bird on the trophy, and there's multiple of them. Okay. And then we're like, okay, this is cool. And all we hear is like, and then, obviously you want to see the garage. So then we're walking to the garage, all we hear is right? And so then we open the garage, and it's a bunch of pigeons. crazy amount of pigeons. So then we slam the door. We're like, what is going on? We go back to the house, and then we ask the owner. We're like, hey, what is that? He's like, oh, there's 250 pigeons.
Holy crap!
And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm a pigeon racer.
Pigeon racer?
Yeah, he races pigeons.
Oh.
Right, so, and we're like, do you have a name for them? And yeah, he's like, my champion is called Matt, or something like that, you know? And I'm like, whoa. And you know, that's just one of the craziest stories that I've had, because, you know, in real estate, the good thing about real estate is you see so many things and see so many people and see so many, I actually, here's another one, right? So, and these are more fun stories. So, you know, I go do this showing at this house, right? And then, you know, we go to the basement.
Okay.
And then there's like this hidden room, right? Mm-hmm. So then, but you know, if you're buying, you want to see the whole house, right?
I've got a basement story too.
Right? So you go into this room, and then there's a bed.
Yeah.
Right? It's more like a massage bed.
Okay.
But then on the walls, there's all these there's a whip. There's like, you know, and it's a soundproof room, right? So it's like, I was like, okay. Luckily the owner wasn't there, so there was no questions needed to be asked, right? So like that's one of the craziest stories that I've had, right, in real estate. But what is yours?
A couple. I've got a few as well. Two of them really funny, and then third one is a little. It's something. A great lesson for everybody who's trying to get into the market. So let's start with the fun stuff first. Back when I used to do resale, I was showing houses. Fantastic house, beautiful house. This was in Vaughan. And everything looks good. The house is beautiful, immaculate. We go upstairs to the kids' room. And I had no idea that my client had a thing for dolls. Like he was like
dolls?
comfortable. Okay. And then you could see at least 50, 60 dolls, like, you know, like Chucky and, you know.
The scary ones?
Scary ones, and then the creepy ones.
And then the cute ones?
And the cute ones, and then little plush toys, you know, animals that would just come out and eat you alive, sort of thing. But I've never seen these many dolls, and then I've never seen this person get so uncomfortable. Like, sorry, I can't get into the room. I can't go into the room. And why not? And at that point, I didn't know it was a thing about the dolls. Like people get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't think this house is for me.
Yeah, like a lot of like buying houses or buying property.
Yeah.
Like when I talk to my friends, it's a feeling.
It's a feeling. If you don't get that good vibe,
don't buy it.
Don't buy it. And it's just walk out of it. And then the people will just like, oh no, this is not going well.
For me.
This is not going well. This is not for me.
You have to be comfortable when you buy.
Because he's probably gonna think about those dolls if you ended up buying them. Buying the house. So.
Now, one of the growth stories I had was like, you know, during back then the market was down.
Yeah.
Right. During back then, this was like, I'm talking about, this was probably 2012. This was actually Harbor Plaza. Mm-hmm. So the market was down. Back then, Harbor Plaza was $580 a foot.
Okay.
$580 a foot, right? And then the market was down, and I got a few of my friends to buy there. So they bought there, and you know, they were obviously living. They were actually, you know, just getting by, but then I convinced them to buy because they had some savings.
Right.
And then during that market, you know, it turned right when they bought. Mm-hmm. Right? But the market was down. It turned right when they bought. So within a year, they made $200 a foot.
Wow. Yeah.
So when you're making $200 a foot, times they bought a 2-bedroom for $400,000 back then. Mm-hmm. $400,000 for a 2-bedroom, and then it was worth $550 in a matter of a year, mm-hmm. if they sold it by assignment. Now that same property is worth probably $850.
I'm not surprised.
$850 for a 2-bedroom, corner 2-bedroom, $850, and they bought it for $400,000. But it's not that they bought it for $400,000; is they put 20% on $400,000. So they put in $80,000 to make $350 or $400,000, whatever the math is. Yeah. Right? So it's all about leverage.
That's like 4 times the return.
And that's like Harbor Plaza is not even built maybe 5 years now.
Yeah.
It's been built maybe 5 years, more like 4. Yeah. So plus the construction time, it's been less than 10 years.
Crazy.
Right? So you're making like, on your $80,000, you're making 5 times your return mm-hmm. in less than 10 years. That's a crazy math.
Wow. I've got a motivational story for people who are in the market, they don't know what to do, blah, 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 or they think everything is very expensive. I have a client who has more than 4 or 5 condos they bought through us, closed every one of them, and then, in the market. And so they're old immigrant mentality, came to this country, work hard, factories, their kids are doing extremely well. One of them is in med school, and to cut it short, they both are factory workers. And they're very humble people. They they save every penny they earn. Like, for these kind of people to go out and live a very simple lifestyle, not spend $5 on a Starbucks, not spend like $20 on lunch or whatever.
I only drink free coffee.
So do I, which you got for me. So, very humble, very simple lifestyle, extremely nice people. And for them to, if they can buy, so can you.
Correct. Oh, I have my mom, watching her grow up. She knows people that were cashiers. Right, at the supermarket. And you're talking about making like $6 cash.
Yeah.
Right? $6 cash an hour. And they went from buying 1, 2, 3, 4, and they were grinding it out. Even when I was young, there was maybe 3 years of my life that I had to share a room with my 2 siblings. So we shared a room, and the whole family lived in the basement.
Yeah.
Right. And then the client, in fact, actually they shared their whole family shared a room in the house that they bought, right? Just so they can rent out all the other rooms. For like 5-10 years, just so they can build wealth. So what I love about Canada is you actually have the opportunity to build wealth and grow.
Everybody starts from somewhere. Nobody's born into it. Nobody's like, oh, I got a $5,000 square feet mansion. Nobody's born into it. Everybody, all the top agents that you've seen, like not in the past 5 years, but like 10, 15 years, they started from somewhere, like your mom. My father.
Or even my partner, Charles.
Charles.
Yeah, he started from nothing and I started from nothing, exactly. And here we are. Here you are. Canada has the opportunity for all of us to grow.
Right. And then what needs to be understood is we've been through those tough times. I remember, and this is a true story, I remember my father when we came fresh to Canada, we were just fresh off the boat sort of thing. We came in, he's like, here's $20, put it in your pocket. At the end of the week, I'll check if you have that $20 with you. That was only for an emergency basis. You eat an ice cream, get the belt out.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, because that was the culture.
That's the culture. If you're not earning, you're not spending. That's as easy as that. Now you're earning, now you're spending because you can afford to spend.
Yeah.
If you can't afford to spend, don't spend. And then that's the culture I see nowadays in the newer generation. How much money do you have in your bank? $7. Why are you eating out?
Well,
right?
the whole society has changed, right? So that's a different topic from real estate, but
But you know what I mean? In coming from that kind of background.
Correct.
We've come a long way.
Oh, absolutely, and everybody has their own way of making their life what it is today.
Oh, for sure.
My partner Charles, at the time, he wasn't getting any sites, right? So he actually went out to grab his own sites. And so he was grabbing sites in Waterloo and, things that nobody wanted to sell back then. Right? But then he grinded it out and he made it work.
Yep.
And then so that's why me and him are partners now, because we're able to get bigger and better sites because we grinded through the tough times.
And when I started, there was no, websites or no database. There were no broker portals, right? You pick up my car, drive to Vaughan, drive to Markham, drive to whatever. Look at what's coming up, look at sites. Okay, this is what it is, there's a phone number. Contact somebody. And then, that's how you start building a database from the developer side. okay, this is the new site coming up. That's how you start.
You have physical brochures, like
yeah.
Like to be honest, like I used to do business to business selling, actually with my mom back then, selling City Place. So that's kind of how I started too. So me and my mom would go from business to business in Chinatown, and we would go into the restaurant at like 10 p.m. Because that's when they get a break. Because Chinatown back then was, you get a dinner rush and you get the late night rush.
I've heard about this, but I want to hear about this again. I don't know where I've heard about this, but I've heard about it.
So you go in at 10 o'clock, and then you get the restaurant owner to buy.
Okay.
And when the restaurant owner buys, then all of their staff buy. Right. So you must have clients in the same kind of.
For sure.
Right. The boss buys, and so all the staff are like, oh, okay. If the boss is buying, I should buy too. If I can afford it. And those are the people that are living within their means or less than their means that are buying. And then now those are people that own multiple condos.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And then now they're set for retirement and all that. And so that's why even me and you, when we go to certain restaurant, they thank us. Really, they're thanking our parents,
right?
for helping them, man up or brave up and just make that decision to buy.
And down the road, that same condo is like a second, third, fourth earning member of the family because of the accumulation of appreciation over the years that they've gotten from what they bought it for or what it is worth now. So their life has become a lot easier.
Oh yeah, now like they choose to work.
Oh, for sure.
Right now they don't have to work, but because they have enough assets where they don't need to, but they still want to because, like
the hard work mentality that our parents' generation.
And that's what real estate's about, is about working hard. If you put in the time and effort, you're gonna get the return.
Yeah.
Right. So like. And that's what's, as you said, missing maybe in today's society. I don't know if I believe that or not, because I'm not that age. But what I can tell you is, if you're living in Canada, you put the hard work, you live below your means,
definitely,
you can become somebody and you can have a great life.
And you don't need to buy, the biggest unit.
No, it's not about...
Or the biggest house.
No.
Buy something that's comfortable for you. Buy something that is, you won't lose your sleep over.
Correct. Live within your means.
There you go. So that's all you need to do to get started. Because who knew $164,000 studio, like you mentioned, it doesn't exist in this kind of market.
No, now it's like 4 something.
Easy.
Yeah, she shouldn't have sold it. But if she didn't sell it, then she wouldn't have been able to buy 2.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right?
I mean, even 160 versus 400, that's a massive return.
That's enough for a down payment.
For sure. Easy.
So crazy. Hey, Saurabh, thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you very much, Brian, for your time. And this has been nothing but fantastic. And, thanks for making time. It's been a pleasure. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and hit that bell.